Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Runner. We've covered all of this week's Marvel books, and so now it's time to move on to the Distinguished Competition, DC. Now, because we're covering both last week's and this week's, we're going to be doing these next few a little differently. So first off, most of the DC books I get are Batman books, so doing a video focusing on all the Batman books I picked up would be extremely long. So, this first I'm just going to focus on the Batman books that are tying into Fear State. And then we'll do everything else. So, anyway, let's get started with Batman number 115. Where we let in the midst of Fear State, well, yeah. Peacekeeper 01 under the control, having been dosed with the new version of Scarecrow's fear toxin, took on Peacekeeper X and killed him. Also, Miracle Molly has potentially figured out just what Scarecrow's plan is, and she's going to help Batman fix the problem, or make sure it doesn't become, or help. She's going to help him deal with Scarecrow's plan. So, the issue begins at Magistrate Skybase with Simon State watching the aftermath of the explosion, and Saint gets the magistrate gets a call from the mayor wanting to know about the explosion. But one of Saint's employees explains that he had done some digging after reports about poison ivy being in Alleytown. Seismic tests on and scans of the city showed something concerning. Some kind of plant growth in the cave systems under Gotham. A vine system growing up through the bedrock. If that's where Ivy's at, and she uses her abilities to their full extent, she could collapse all of Gotham, and it would be worse than No Man's Land. But, of course, this just pushes Saint over the edge. He states Gotham City is insane and filled with dangerous criminals who should all be destroyed, and this issue we wiped off the face of the earth. Which the employees says actually Ivy could do just, Ivy might actually be able to do just that. And so, Saint thinks about things and new plan. Sending all their forces into the caves underneath the city. In Eden, Master Wise is tending to the young girl that was injured in the magistrate raid on the Insanity Collective, and Ivy helps ease the child's pain. Turns out that we actually learn a bit about Master Wise. He apparently he and Ivy have met previously. He also explained he didn't use the memory machine on himself because he needed the memories he has of developing the technology are too valuable for him to give up. Dating back to when he worked alongside a young scientist named Jervis Tetch. He was initially a part of Tetch's gang. He was Dormouse. Tetch wanted him to be March Hare, but, well, Master Wise didn't opt for a smaller name, hoping to stay out of the way of his madness. But yeah, he was in Arkham, and In fact, it was his time in Arkham that kind of inspired him more so to create the Insanity Collective. But kind of and Master Wise points out that Ivy, saw the girl in pain and opted to help her. In the sewers, Peacekeeper 01 burned and bloodied and, is, dealing with various bits of damage, and when Scarecrow comes to him and basically explains that Gotham City is sick, and that Peacekeeper 01 is the cure. Meanwhile, Batman and Molly are heading towards the Insanity Collective, and she states that she was wondering what it would be like to see Batman in the middle of one of the big citywide crises. She's kind of surprised how calm he is. But he explains everything, like how he wants to control the city, but there are people he trusts who can also do this. And ideally speaking, they'd they do what him and the rest of the Bat family would do what they could to make sure no one gets hurt. But and she says, "You ever wanted to tip things more in your favor? Try to actually save everyone all at once." But Batman explains it's never that simple. But so Molly explains that the memory machine, what was that the Insanity Collective's base, which was raided by the magistrate. That was just the monitor. The real one is tucked away. But she explains that Scarecrow's trying to push things right now, trying to traumatize the whole city. What would happen if he got his hands on a machine loaded up with a few hundred people's trauma and weaponized it? Turned it into a kind of a trauma bomb on the city. And it turns out that yes, Crane has the device, and he's also managed to turn Breaker of the Untitled Collective to his side of things. But the way that Scarecrow's programmed is to basically protect what Scarecrow left behind. But Batman asks us how strong Breaker is, and Molly explains that she's pretty sure that Breaker could punch Superman and Superman would feel it. And she adds that, the gauntlets he wears are some of her best work. But, so she opts to dismantle them without getting squished. She does so, and then Batman promptly knocks him out, and gives him something to help him, basically kind of a fear toxin detox. And but so Batman asks if there's a way Molly could build something to track the memory machine, and so off to the miracle room they go. And we get confirmation that yes, that's exactly what Scarecrow's planning to do. But first he's going to use a smaller version of it on Peacekeeper 01. However, While Ivy is talking with one of Gardner's plant dogs, something feels off in Eden. The magistrate has invaded. And Simon Saint tells the magistrate officer, troops who moved in, to bring him Ivy's head. In our backup story, Batgirls, Clueless, Part 1 of 3, this is occurring during Fear State. So, some of the events in this take place after one of the stories in Urban Legends. In the new Urban Legends. So, Magistrate is after Cassandra Cain. Babs sends Spoiler to help her out. And then Spoiler gets cut off from Babs and is having to deal with Seer, the anti-Oracle. But Spoiler manages to save Cassandra. Turns out there's a video of Cassandra killing multiple members of the Magistrate. So they're a little hot for her. But Seer also has a chat with Barbara. But the Batgirls head back to the clock tower as Barbara has her discussion with Seer, who pretty much informs her that yes, she's completely locked out of the system. And that is where the issue ends. So, I'll be completely honest, that Batgirl story I feel like it's gonna make a lot more sense tacked on to the Fear State Nightwing story, because yeah, it just the Batgirl story, the Urban Legends story that I'll be getting to later, yeah, it should all be tacked on there because, well, yeah, kind of all. I'm really hoping that the trade kind of reflects that. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book. Then, aside from the criticism of the end, it was, good issue. An interesting plan that Scarecrow has. Also, it was nice to get a little bit of background on Master Wise. But anyways, moving on, we've got Batman Secret Files, Peacekeepers 01. So this is basically an origin story for Peacekeeper 01, Sean Mahoney. As a framing device, we've got him running through Gotham, basically tripping balls on fear toxin. This is before the events of Batman 112 and 113. But we also get, like I said, it's also shows as an origin story. So there's a bridge in Gotham that has a plaque dedicated to Sean's great-great-grandfather. And we see his dad taking him to see it when Sean was a kid, and his dad explains that, yeah, they say that, they respected him, but they couldn't even spell his damn name right. But his dad was a cop, a dirty cop, no less, because, well, yeah. Most of the Gotham police force is, or at least was, fairly dirty. And one night, while going out to take care of a witness, Mahoney brings Sean with him, while Mahoney and his partner beat said witness to death. But yeah, going after Peacekeeper 01, you've got magistrate officials, and yeah, the best anyone can say is that they walked away. Some don't have that luxury. But we also see Mahoney's dad basically justifying to Mahoney him being a crooked cop. And we also find out that that when Sean was in high school, um, Mad Hatter attacked the school field trip and mind controlled all the kids in the field trip, including Sean. Made them basically steal everything in the museum for the Hatter. We see what happened when his dad got fired from the force by Gordon. Apparently, 6 times Mahoney tried to apply to join the GCPD, and Gordon made it clear that Sean reminds Gordon too much of his father, and so yeah, as long as Gordon's the commissioner, there ain't a place for Sean Mahoney in the GCPD. Early on at his time at Arkham, he beat Jervis Tetch. It's caught on camera. He tries to say the Tetch was trying to escape, but Dr. Arkham and Dr. Joy explain, you're on camera. No, he wasn't. You just beat on him. And he's basically told, turn your behavior around or your contract will not be renewed. But in the present, Sean has broken into his father's bar. And suffice to say, his father pretty much thinks Sean's a failure. We also learn that on A-Day, Mahoney tried to... The oxygen tanks that caused the explosion were put in the records room by Mahoney in an effort to destroy his disciplinary record at Arkham. But Mahoney realizes that he was nothing more than his father's scapegoat. He didn't destroy the Mahoney legacy. His father did. And he explains that he's better than his father because his father is nothing. He thought coming to the bar was coming back home. He's trying to get his head straight, trying to connect with who he is. But the bar that his dad runs is not him. It isn't his home. And he ventures back out into the city to find the Scarecrow. And we've got the events of the last few issues of Batman also kind of fill in the gaps of to kind of say what happened with Peacekeepers 1 after this. But good issue. The only problem I really have with it is it feels like okay. Shortly before, in the issues leading up to Fear State beginning, Harley mentioned to Batman that she knows she knows Sean Mahoney from Arkham, and not just from as having been an inmate there, but also from having been on staff. Whereas it kind of feels like his tenure there was actually wasn't that long. But it would have been nice to have gotten a definitive have him briefly interact with Dr. Quinzel, or hear something to say that Harleen was there on staff while he was there. But it's interesting to see the basic show that the way that the Tinian has been portraying Mahoney since is just kind of a good guy who wanted to be the hero, and he's being given more power and authority than he probably should be. Now we're finding out not that good of a guy, which honestly makes Peacekeeper 01 even scarier. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Batman Urban Legends, number 8. So last month's Urban Legends focusing more around Batman Day than Fear State. So it was all one-off stories concerning various future Batmans. This one, while not up, I think all of the stories are connected to a degree, or at least tangentially, to Fear State. So we've got disinformation campaign starring Batwoman, Professor Pig and Little Pig, Azrael and Dark Night of the Soul, and the Outsiders in The Fearful. So, disinformation campaign. As mentioned, this is the Batwoman story I mentioned while going over the Batgirl's backup in Batman. There's a video of Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, fighting and killing members of the Magistrate. But meanwhile, Kate, Kane, and her sister Beth are, having a nice night in. And Beth's trying to cook dinner, or Kate's trying to cook dinner, but Beth has a brief relapse into her Red Alice persona, and it's explained that she's going through therapy, and she is trying to put Red Alice behind her, and that it's going to be a process. However, their evening's interrupted by Kate's ex showing up. And by Kate's ex, I mean GCPD Commissioner Renee Montoya, who wants to know about the video of Batgirl killing civilians. And so, Kate says, she wouldn't do that, but I'll make sure, I'll find out and let you know. So, Kate suits up, finds Cass dealing with more magistrate troops. They work together to save each other, and Kate and Cassie have a chat about it. Cassie, it wasn't her. And there's a little bit more she passes along. Hey, yeah, someone took over Oracle's network, and so maybe that's them. Yeah, it is. And in fact, Seer is watching them. In fact, Seer knows who all of them are. Really. But, Kate realizes that her sister's in danger, so she goes back to her penthouse, and sure enough, someone's already there. A squad of magistrate troops. The robot ones. So, she didn't hurt anyone, it seems, but she did manage to take them down. And Kate explains that what's going on, that this anti-Oracle seems to know who all the Bat family members are and who they really are, and everyone close to them. And Beth has an idea. She knows some people, and she knows they'll help them. Well, not Batwoman or Kate or Beth Kane. But if Red Alice tells them to do something, they will. And that is where the story ends. Or that is where part one of the story ends. Which it's an interesting story, and like it sets up some neat stuff for Nightwing as well as the Batgirl's backup. Then we've got Little Pig, Little Pig. Professor Pig has kidnapped someone who's likely to turn them into a doll, and so Batman's on the hunt. Apparently, as a child, Bruce Wayne really enjoyed having his father read The Three Little Pigs to him. And that's actually done in a bit of narration. But the Hatter suggests he check the fairground. Ventriloquists, the abandoned movie lot. Penguin, disused slaughterhouse. Penguin only flips because, well, he doesn't approve of Piggy's going after kids. But he does ask for Batman's discretion on the matter. He eventually does track down, Batman tracks down Pig and his goons. And we also get kind of, to a degree, an origin of Batman's obsession with prep time. Three Little Pigs. After one time hearing his father tell it to him, he said that, the wolf should have been better prepared. But Batman takes down Pig and saves the little girl, and that is where the story ends. Which brings us to a solid and fun little Batman story. This is probably the only one that really doesn't tie in any way, shape, or form to Fear State. And that's fine. But next we've got Azrael and Dark Knight of the Soul. Azrael's fighting his way through Crown Point in Gotham. Runs into a protection racketeer by the name of Bullet Tooth, who blows up his building, dying in the process. Turns out that Jean-Paul Valley, during the day, works in a hospice. The St. Rita Hospice, the inpatient unit. And he's trying to fight the condition. He's doing what he can to, to a degree at least, fight the conditioning. That night, Batman comes to see him. I say, hey, there was a body count at Bullet Tooth last night. And he doesn't allow body counts in Gotham. And Dad was going to say, whoa, wait. He blew the place up himself. I was there. I was trying to take him down, but he set the explosives and pushed the detonator down himself. And then a drug dealer also a few blocks away, which was killed, decapitated with a battle axe. Which is news to Jean-Paul. He uses a flaming sword, not a battle axe. Only a crazy person would use battle axe in the city. But Batman insists no more deaths. But something that was brought up, it's been going around, people say. That is that Death has lost her hold on Gotham. And outside the morgue that night, Bullet Tooth walks out. Which triggers some of Azrael's conditioning. And that is where the story ends. Definitely an interesting story. I like Azrael being back. I like the fact that he's trying to come to grips with the conditioning. I think it's a really neat direction to go with him. Anyway, final story of the issue is our outsider story. The Fearful begins 30 future state plus 30 years in Gotham. The Signal is making his way through the city on the back of Teakle, clearing the Witch Boy's familiar. He finally makes it to the Ark, the ruins of Arkham Asylum, gets in, and there's a horde of, and the Signal, now with a demon arm, has to cast a spell to send Black Lightning back in time. Sadly, he doesn't arrive early. He doesn't go far enough. But around the same time, at the center of the Earth, the Outsiders are taking on Vogel the Lord. Winter takes the surface world. Turns out they've got a way that the Outsiders work now. A bit more flexible lineup. More specialized response to the threats the world faced. You have 5 chairs. The first 4 would be Black Lightning, Metamorpho, Katana, and the Signal. The 5th chair would rotate, taking on whoever found themselves staring down something they couldn't handle on their own. Which is how the Outsiders came to work with Frankenstein. But, so the Outsiders take down Vogel when Future Jefferson shows up. The Fearful is apparently a man named Jonah Winfield. He was a student of Jonathan Crane's and was exposed to massive amounts of fear toxin. But more recently, after spending years at home with his family, kind of getting over it, more recently he was exposed again. And he's made something worse. He can spread the fear himself. And when the Outsiders find him, that's exactly what he does. And, but the Outsiders get some unexpected assistance from none other than Red Robin, which is where the story ends for now, as well as the issue. I'm quite glad to see Tim Drake pop up. Fun fact: when Batman's explaining everything to Molly in that issue of Batman, every panel where he talked about the Bat family showed a panel which was clearly referencing one of the other Bat books from that month dealing in Fear State, including Robin working with the Outsiders, among others. Next up, we've got Catwoman number 36. Where we left off, Alleytown was under siege. And LaGardner and Harley Quinn were en route to take that last bit of the missing part of Ivy to Queen Ivy. So, anyway, the magistrate activates White Witch, the assassin with phasing capabilities, which Catwoman dealt with, while going after the Riddler earlier and trying to find Ivy. She has two targets. Her primary target is Poison Ivy. Retrieved, ideally speaking, to be retrieved, but if need be, terminated. Secondary target is Catwoman, to be terminated. But, so, yeah, the, Catwoman has sets up a plan, and passes it along to Enigma, who she thinks can be trusted. Enigma, of course, passes that bit of information along to the Penguin. But Clayface's squad is doing what they can to make things hard on the magistrate when they get some unexpected reinforcements in the form of Harley Quinn and the gardener. But then Catwoman shows up, and we actually have a great moment where Catwoman tells the gardener that Catwoman is so cool, and that's who Ivy wants to be when she grows up. But Catwoman's got a plan. Her, Gardner, and Ivy will deal with the White Witch, whereas everyone else deals with, well, getting everyone, especially Ivy, out of Alleytown. And so the three of them deal with the White Witch and take her down. Actually, do manage to take her down. And of course, the plan requires a bit of misdirection. Multiple identical vehicles. Hard to say which is the important one. But it turns out the White Witch, well, yeah, there's just one of them. There's apparently a, they've got, she's a clone. It's a clone army. And that is where the issue ends. Fun story, and it's definitely interesting to see how this all plays out. Especially, I was legitimately surprised about the, and pleasantly, I might add, when it comes to the addition of additional White Witches. The clone aspect, clones. Hey, I'm never gonna have entirely good thoughts of clones in superhero comics ever since the Clone Saga. So, you know. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got I Am Batman, number 2. Where we left off, in the panic going on in the city, in Gotham, Jace Fox, taking on the Batman himself, is trying to find out what led. He's trying to get information on some deaths related to a job he had been working before coming back to Gotham. Tangentially related, but however, the vigilante Anarchy was killed. Not by Batman, but just recently. And of course, it turns out that Seer has fired up the conspiracy theorists throughout Gotham, organized conspiracy theorist militia types. Because of course Gotham's got that. But we see the death of Anarchy. We also see Batman taking on some of these anti-mask militia types. Little effort. It doesn't take much to deal with them. But of course they don't fear him. He's Batman. Everyone knows Batman doesn't kill. But the police, Detectives Whitaker and Chubb, interrogate a boy named Morris about the death of Anarchy. And he explains that the city's under siege by agents of the Hidden Agenda. When pressed on the Hidden Agenda, he explains the shadow government is controlling our lives. Protected by the mass, the magistrate, and the police. Not even the police can be trusted. And so, Morris, he was on patrol, member of a group called the Moral Authority. They're sworn to defend the city from agents of the hidden agenda. And he saw Mask was already hurt and running scared. Masks are illegal in Gotham, so Morris, the kid, finished the job with it. Finished Anarchy off. But Whitaker and Chubb tell Montoya what's going on. Turns out that Arcanine, the guy that Jace had been was after initially, is being extradited to the States. Surprisingly enough. Elsewhere, Commissioner Montoya goes to speak with Tanya Fox, kind of saying, "Hey, look, we got this kid. He's part of a anti-mask conspiracy theory militia group called the Moral Authority. He needs a lawyer. He needs a good lawyer. Even what he did was wrong, he still needs the chance to fight it." And tries to convince Tanya to take the case. But Jace has had Vol hack into the message boards that the Moral Authority uses, and set up and DM'd various members about a meet for Seer. Well, the members show up and run into Batman. Batman takes him down rather effortlessly, but one of them says, he's really not afraid though, because Batman doesn't kill. And so Jace removes the faceplate of his mask and asks if he looks like Batman. Knocks the guy down and says, "I am Batman." He goes on about his business. However, Seer recorded the exchange, and so now the Moral Authority know they're looking for a second Batman. And that is where the issue ends. I gotta say, I Am Batman overall I'm digging Jace Fox Batman. I hope that I'm fairly certain I Am Batman is not a miniseries, but I really hope that after Future State we still get more of Jace. And I think we are. So that's good. And in the present continuity, I don't mind reading more of Future Jace and Future State stuff, but yeah. Give me more of this guy. Give me more of him now. Anyway, moving on to our last book for the video. Nightwing number 85. Where we left off, Dick had received a call from Barbara saying she needed help in Gotham to meet her at a specific spot. He shows up and almost gets killed by the magistrate, only to be saved by Batman. Nightwing and Batman part ways, and Nightwing goes to the clock tower to help Oracle. So the issue begins with Oracle basically telling everyone who is linked into Oracle's tour network that her network is going black for the time being because it's been hacked and it cannot be trusted. But Seer has a holographic form, and so after Seer tries to taunt Dick and Babs, the two of them trash the clock tower. And they go after her. And we get a flashback to when they were kids. Babs convinced Dick to sneak out, and the two of them did just that. But turns out that the Oracle has a secondary base, which Tim has admin clearance for because is a system admin for because Tim is probably close to as computer savvy as Barbara. Of course, it's surrounded by magistrate, so using smoke bombs, Dick and Babs take out the magistrate drones and then make their way into the building. and are promptly dosed with fear toxin. Where apparently they each see the other being murdered. But Tim's there and helps them get out, get out of the whole fear toxin thing. And well, upon seeing that Dick's okay, Babs promptly kisses him, which leads to Tim simply saying, "Finally." But Babs reveals, before knocking out her network, Babs reveals to Seer that she Seer's hidden herself well. She can still see Seer's background and knows where Seer is. She's on the Magistrate Skybase. But Seer has one more trick up her sleeve and says, "Hey, the Batgirls, they're on their own at the clock tower. Whatever could happen?" The trio race to the clock tower only to see it explode. And that is where the issue ends. Though, of course, the thread with Cassie and Stephanie will be continued in the Batgirls Clueless backup in Batman 115 through I think 117. But that's going to do it for this week's. Honestly, under Tom Taylor's Nightwing has been amazing. Even pigeonholed into a Bat Family event, it's still great. So yeah, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.